Hi, my name is Renisha Williams. I go to Liberty University and I will be talking about interpersonal communication. Um, I am 24 years old. I recently moved to the DC area from Charlotte, North Carolina. Before Charlotte, I was living in Ohio, in Cincinnati. So it's been an adventure traveling to all these different places. Um, I really enjoyed this class, and it's definitely been a good learning experience to say the least. And it's really helped me as far as my communication with others. Doing this is totally out of my comfort zone, so sorry if I'm not giving direct eye contact. So, the first few things that I want to talk about. I'm just going to go over my introduction, what interpersonal communication means, overarching goals, enlarging the conversation, background and behavioral blend, communication behaviors, resources and strategies that you use to get over communication, an action plan, and then conclusion. So about me. Like I stated, I'm 24 years old. My birthday is March 20th. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology that I actually got from University of North Carolina when I lived in Charlotte. I have one brother and two sisters. I'm very energetic, but I'm also very closed in at the same time. Um, and I am obtaining a master's degree at Liberty in human service counseling. And I also work at Johns Hopkins Hospital. So that's a little bit about me. The next thing I would like to talk about is what interpersonal communication means. So interpersonal communication is basically just communicating, receiving, talking, and listening, and it gives us a way to actually emphasize or actually receive that information in a unique way. Um, and one thing that I really like that Stewart stated from our book is when communicators give, receive, and talk or listen in ways that emphasize their uniqueness, unmeasurability, responsiveness, reflectiveness, and addressability, then the communication between them is interpersonal. And I thought that was something that really defined what interpersonal communication meant. Um, I think it's basically just enhancing the conversation. And I think that sometimes when we communicate with others, we communicate to really just to respond back, and we don't actually listen to what is being said. So a lot of times we get things misinterpreted, or we're just, worried about what our next words are going to be to that person without really focusing on what they stated. Um, I feel like when you're able to have a conversation with someone, and you're actually able to have a in-depth conversation, I feel that you must be able to trust that person. That way you don't feel that they're being judgmental. You can pretty much talk to them normally, and you feel comfortable around them. And then they also give you that reassurance that no matter what you say, it's between you and them, and they won't, spread your business to other people. I just think that when you have a conversation with someone, or interpersonal communication or a conversation with someone, you have to trust them, because if you don't, then you probably won't likely state everything that you want to say to them, so you'll probably be hiding in a lot of things. So an overreaching goal is one that both encompasses and accumulates a set of related goals. Um, One thing that Burley Allen stated was, "It is difficult to understand others until we learn to listen effectively to ourselves." And I think that's something that I actually struggle with. I tend to give really good advice. I tend to, talk to others about their issues, and especially with communication, I just tell them, like, you have to communicate with others. Communication is very important. But then when it comes to me communicating with others, I tend to have a very difficult time with that. So I think we have to really understand ourselves and being able to effectively listen to ourselves before we can actually give that information or pass that information along to someone else. I tend to make decisions very quickly, and I also don't really think about what I'm saying or what I'm doing. I just I just move. And I kind of did that when I moved to DC. I just picked up my things from Charlotte and moved, and I didn't really have a plan. So I felt that if I was communicating with someone or communicated that, I probably would have had a better plan. As far as my move. I also sometimes, like, when I get very when I start telling someone something such as like a goal with like my career, or just with goals that I have in general, and they disagree with me, I tend to shut down. Or if I'm expressing myself to them or telling someone, like, you made me upset, and then they come back and say, well, why did I make you upset? Or they get angry with me, I just shut down and I try to leave the situation alone. I try to avoid any type of conflict as much as possible. Some of the personal overreaching goals that I have is I'll verbally communicate all information to others. I'm expressing how I feel, learning how to not void what I say to others just to save others' feelings, not shutting down and being more open with communicating. Using I statements when I communicate my feelings, not overthinking. Also, just making sure that I'm being very vocal about how I feel. And another thing that Burley Allen stated was that a listening barrier exists when someone hears what he wants to hear and not really what is communicated. So I think that sometimes, as a society, we tend to just listen to what we want to hear. And I probably do that a lot as well. Some of my background, my family is pretty small, but we really don't communicate at all. And when I was growing up, there was a lot of arguing and yelling. No one really talked about how they felt. Um, if I tried to talk about how I felt, my mom would, immediately shut that down. And so I was pretty much afraid to speak how I felt, and I was very afraid to speak to other people. I didn't really like expressing myself. I would be afraid that if I said the wrong thing, that I would hurt someone else's feelings, or if it wasn't pleasing to someone, I didn't want to do it. And I do have a hard time making eye contact when speaking directly to individuals. And one thing that I found from an article that I read by David Hazard is eye behavior is an important dimension of interpersonal communication. In fact, without eye contact, most adults say that they are not able to fully communicate or to determine whether they are being understood. So I think that eye communication is making eye contact is very important, because if you don't, then people think you're ignoring them, or the message can be misinterpreted in the wrong way if you're not fully engaged with that person. Some of my background influences that are positive are very creative. I'm a go-getter. I will speak if I'm spoken to. Assertiveness, wisdom, intelligence, and loving. Some of the negative influences are lack of trust. I can't make eye contact. I avoid expressing my feelings. I'm a deep thinker. I lack family support, and I tend to be all over the place when it comes to my career and what I want to do in life. Some of the communication barriers is difficult or challenging conversations with others, negative self-talk, disclosing myself to others, avoid speaking to people first, finding a sense of entitlement to speak up. Sometimes I have an issue with speaking up when it needs to be, when I need to bring something to someone's attention. I tend to just hide and not really say much and just kind of let things just slide. Some of the positive and negative behavioral blend influences are I'm friendly, very warm, good listener. I don't cut corners. I'm pretty much straight to the point. Some of the negative behaviors is overreacting, thinking too much. Some of the strategies that I use are praying, just talking to God, just asking Him for guidance when it comes to communication. And I found this quote by Billy Graham, and it says that prayer is a simple two-way conversation between you and God. And I think that's very important, because if you can't communicate with God, then it's very hard for you to communicate with others. I also write down how I feel as well. One of the action plans that I have is learning how to speak up, asking more questions if I'm not sure, listening to understand and not respond automatically, and think before I talk. And I really enjoyed this class, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to record. Thank you.